Let's dream the Crow-like dream. I'm Niki Minner, and this week on the Eric Draven Files, we have The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. This is the first time we have a series that I feel semi-lukewarm about. However, this one does have its fans, and there's a reason. Aside from the upcoming reimagining that we're discussing it. This should be a fun time.
I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them.
Okay, so I caught Stairway on the Sci-Fi channel a few times here and there during its initial run. It caught my interest, but never enough to start it from the beginning. What's interesting about this is that it's based on the 1994 movie adaptation, which was pulled from James O'Barr's original comic. Mark Dacascos would be the one and only person ever to fill the role once held by Brandon Lee. This is an interesting take, right? I think most of us, including myself, often compare any Crow iteration to the original. I've watched all the Crow-related movies because I'm curious about the next person's vision. The only one that's gotten several viewings for me aside from the OG is City of Angels. Do whatever you want with that info.
Lady Lux, a bitch.
The show, which was created, sometimes written by Bryce Zabel, known for his work on Dark Skies and Mortal Kombat Annihilation, follows what feels like a cop and sidekick crime-solving format, with Eric Draven trying to reunite with Shelley throughout the series. Additionally, various characters are after the actual Crow for its immortality properties, a plot device that seems to appear in nearly every episode. I'd also like to add that instead of Eric just putting on makeup and seeking vengeance, it's a bit different here. The Crow persona is activated when Eric reaches his maximum breaking point, then when everything is calm, he goes back to just being plain old Eric. I believe Mark took great care in portraying Eric. However, there are moments when his portrayal of Eric feels more like a caricature rather than his own unique interpretation. Don't get me wrong here, Mark is a total badass. He studied his father's style of martial arts, one-hop kendo, Muay Thai, and holds a 4th-degree black belt. With roles in Brotherhood of the Wolf, John Wick Chapter 3, Cradles of the Grave, Redemption, Kickboxer 5, Tales from the Crypt, and Double Dragon, among others, he's proven his versatility and skill.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
The action and fighting in the series were particularly impressive, especially since Mark performed most of his own stunts. I also will fight anyone who was annoyed by Katie Stewart's portrayal of Sarah. She's annoying because she's fucking nailing it and it's endearing just like Rochelle Davis. There's more adult actors in this that aren't pulling their weight, but I also often point back to the scripts. Seeing someone else take on the role of Albrecht is just as challenging as seeing someone else step into Eric's shoes. Ernie Hudson had so much heart that someone like Mark Gomes never had a chance. You almost have to think of it like two separate things, like Van Halen. Oh, and if you ever wanted to see another take on the Skull Cowboy who didn't make the cut of the original film, this one has Kadeem Hardison, who you may remember as Dwayne from A Different World. A high note the series also hits is the music. There are tracks from artists like Oleander, Semisonic, Cracker, Fuel, Rob Zombie, and Days of the New if that does anything for you. It does for me, but also, fun fact, pre-Linkin Park band Zero actually has a song in My Brother's Keeper with Corey Feldman. It was an early version of Forgotten. It's called Rhinestone. I think I would hear Linkin Park anywhere. All right, now on to the episodes. Sold Out, Episode 2. Eric meets Boggs from Shawshank. Yeah, I didn't choose Episode 1. There's a large gap between episodes from this one to the next in terms of what really drew me in. Back to Boggs. He's controlling his scorcher of a wife, India, played by Julie Dreyfus, who I wish I could have seen much more of. He also has this weird relationship with a rather large snake, and it comes into play later. I like that they flesh out Shelley and Eric's first meeting, with Shelley as a photographer at Blackout to photograph Eric's band, Hangman's Joke. It wasn't until the final episode that I was able to figure out if I actually enjoyed Sabin Carcenti's portrayal of Shelley, but honestly, I think it might edge out Sophia's shyness. We find out that Boggs, Mace Reeves, played by Mark Rolston, ordered Eric to be killed because if Eric and Shelley's spirits combined, it would make Eric too powerful. Mace agrees that he did indeed make Eric the way he is now, and Shelley's in limbo. He adds that if India is killed, then Shelley would be set free. Obviously, Eric isn't going to do that, and helps India to rid them of Mace by stabbing the snake. Mace's crow makeup is interesting here and takes you a little bit out of it, but Rolston makes for a good adversary. The last interaction between India and Eric is one of my favorite scenes of the whole show. Through a Dark Circle, Episode 11. I'm not so much for the main baddie arc of this episode as I am the side attraction. Sarah is in some GeoCities goth chat about death and crows and stuff, talking to some entity named Nightmare, played by Alex Karzis, who she later meets up with solo outside a blackout. We've all done it. Don't worry, later Eric does reprimand Sarah for meeting some weirdo on the net and takes over the meetups from there. I kind of hoped Nightmare would pop back up, and he did, but it was a different actor with a different tone, and I was wishing I didn't. I was intrigued about them expanding on the Land of the Damned and this whole lone gunman vibe. As for the main villain quest, Eric, desperate to get Shelly, opens up the portal and lets a serial killer through. I wasn't into the pseudo-shocker vibes of some guy who looks like Spider for Power Man 5000, but it is one of the 3 darker episodes nevertheless. Bonus, there's a scene with Albrecht getting down with Cordy to some slow R&B jams. It's the late 90s, you gotta love it. The People vs. Eric Draven, episode 13. I feel it odd that this is the most compelling of all the episodes aside from the last episode. Classic court drama though, with Eric's fate hanging in the balance. His attorney annoyed me, laughing at Sarah annoyed me, the fact that Albrecht was doubted annoyed me. Shit, do I actually care about these characters? I could not stop watching this. I was even talking to the television, maybe the characters as well, during the duration. I think the most annoying thing about the whole thing is that the jury believed Funboy's testimony pinning Shelly's death on Eric. And this Funboy is way less likable than the one originally portrayed by Michael Massey. You can't see it, but my head is exploding. It's plausible though. Eric wasn't in the casket and his fingerprints matched that of the actual Eric Draven. How Eric came back from the dead is not an easy thing to explain, nor is it easy to convince anyone that it was actually true. Eric even manages to show his attorney his special set of skills by stabbing himself and healing, but this seems to do nothing other than freak the guy out. Also, why did they have Darla testify to discredit Funboy? I do like the closing argument given by Eric's attorney, which is probably so good because the writer did some work on 2020. This episode continues to cement Mark's Eric good guy persona, and you warm up more to someone other than Brandon playing the role. I would recommend not skipping this episode as it will come up in later episodes. Dead to Rights and A Gathering Storm, episodes 21 and 22. We're throwing these 2 together. I love Anthony Michael Hall, especially when he plays the villain. Aside from Mace Reeves, he's probably my favorite bad guy of the series. Eric tries to fight Becoming the Crow to stop the cycle of violence and vengeance, but has to bring him out once more to finally take down Hall as Truax. I really love the lines spoken by the Crow to Truax, acknowledging how the violence in Truax's home shaped him into the person he is today.
Everybody's got their reasons, but who cares? Suffer your torments. Let the peace of death be denied you as it is to me.
Moving on to the final episode. It's kind of wild, but it is one of the darker episodes, which is why I chose it, other than the fact that it made me come to several realizations about the series as a whole. For those of you who haven't watched the series, or maybe watched half like me, I would ask you to step out of your comfort zone to absorb this take. I'm gonna default to one of my old phrases. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's not the worst. Also, where's Shelly? Shit, do I actually care about these characters? Ugh, I do. So where can we watch it? Not on streaming cable. You can find it if you dig around though. Physical release is out there, but the cheapest copies appear to be bootlegs. So, what happened? What's the frequency, Kenneth? The series was a victim of a merger when Universal bought Polygram Productions. Zabel wanted to make a 6-hour miniseries to give the show a true ending and some closure for the fans, but that has long since expired. That's it. Just saying this out loud. Have we perhaps elevated the Crow to a mythological status? It seems like nothing that comes after can measure up, no matter who's involved. The movie feels nearly perfect in every aspect, from the casting to the cinematography to the soundtrack. Have we simply acknowledged its greatness, or has its legacy made it impossible to surpass? It's worth considering that part of the film's enduring legacy might stem from the tragic circumstances surrounding its production, particularly the untimely death of Lee. This real-life tragedy has undoubtedly contributed to the film's mystique and emotional impact. Moreover, The Crow captured the essence of the 90s alternative culture with its dark, gothic aesthetic and a soundtrack that perfectly encapsulates the era's musical landscape. So, while nostalgia and tragedy play significant roles in its legendary status, the film's quality and cultural resonance cannot be denied. The original is as sacred to us as the story itself is to Obar. So, while The Crow Stairway to Heaven doesn't capture the magic of the original film, it does provide some comforting familiarity, and it expands on the story in a fun way. As Eric says, it can't rain all the time. The series does indeed have a unique place in the Crow's legacy. Until next time, my creepy companions.
If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever.